All right, our team told us we're rolling for the hype pod.
Here we go.
Oh my goodness, the
Hype
post
pod is back. Where you been, Vance?
Election hype pod.
I've been here. You've been
been waiting here.
recording.
This is episode 78. No, I don't know. It's just
When you left, it was 32.
we're back.
My gosh. Yes.
And just had an election.
Post-election
Wow.
pod.
That's
Here
why we
go.
have our political correspondent,
Wow.
Michelle Stewart.
By night.
We only get you on for political stuff.
See you in 2028.
She actually does do law as well, folks. So if you need any legal advice, don't make work for you.
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Yep. Scrap that. No, let's talk politics because what a day.
What a day.
What a day.
night.
What a night. That
What a
was.
night.
What were you doing last night? Were you hanging out? Did you have a watch party?
We had a little watch party.
Wow.
In my home. A couple people over.
Yep.
Mixed group of people.
Oh, on both sides.
Going for
A
both sides.
bipartisan party.
A bipartisan party on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
Came together to watch. And so
To watch the election. Was it really a bipartisan?
it was bipartisan. Yeah, both sides.
And what was the mood?
At first, it was like, here we go.
Oh,
It's,
really?
And
At
as
what
the
time
night
was
went
this?
on,
At what time was that? Here we go.
6 p.m.
So at 6 p.m., I believe that Pennsylvania was still very much in Kamala's
Yep,
favor.
exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
It wasn't looking good for
It wasn't
Republicans.
looking good. It wasn't.
But then it started to swing
Oh,
pretty rapidly.
you had the play-by-play.
I had the play-by-play.
What were you doing?
Oh, I was half songwriting.
Yes.
Oh,
With
this is gonna be a
the
good album.
electoral map open.
Oh,
And
I can't wait to
already
hear that song.
I'd already.
the red is coming.
It's
the blood
it's,
of Jesus.
It's definitely
It's the
a
blood.
country song from that. But it was real time because I already knew. Hey, if you get Pennsylvania, you pretty much got an 80% chance of winning.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Whoever got it.
And so I was like, oh no, we can't lose Pennsylvania. And then I was watching X all the way home, and that was
Thank God for X. man.
I
Thank God for
know.
Elon.
Yeah.
Man, talk about innovators.
No, it was Alex Jones actually. I was watching Alex Jones
Wow.
and or Elon. Yeah, he bought it, but Alex Jones on the way home. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
You
so
didn't do
good.
the all-in real-time
Commentary.
live commentary?
No, I didn't. Only because I didn't think Sachs was going to be on there.
He popped in and out.
He did pop in,
And he was
out.
partying in Mar-a-Lago. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
He was having a good time.
Yeah.
He was slurring towards the end, but
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. No, what
it was more than just Pennsylvania, though. I mean, it was a red wave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're talking popular vote.
I think we're still waiting at the time of this filming for the House fully, but it's looking.
Oh,
pretty good for
we're
the House.
talking
I think we got
Senate
the House, right?
majority.
We do. It
Oh, did
came
we
out
got the House
I
majority
think we're
too?
the House
about
majority.
an hour ago. There was still like.
Oh,
They got
okay.
the House majority. Oh no.
I mean, can we fact check? Do we have a fact checker?
We're,
Katrina, could
we're
you
saying
just
we.
check?
This is not a bipartisan podcast.
Do we have the House yet? Because we've got the Senate, we've got the popular vote, we've got the presidency.
We got more governors.
Do we have the House?
more governors.
And we could have more. We could have actually more votes. I think in the Supreme Court, more nominees for Supreme Court, because in the next 4 years, I think there's about 3 Supreme Court justices that may
That are up?
be up for retirement.
Retirement, yeah. I mean, it's
So-
lifelong. They can stay as long as they want. But
Yeah, so you pick. It's still in balance. What's in balance? Give us the update.
Decided,
Well, I know that.
44 Democrats, 52 Republicans.
44 to 52.
Yeah.
no, Senate. That's the Senate.
That's the Senate, right?
House would be like 204, I think, to Republicans, to 100 and something.
Yeah, listen to the lawyer go.
We're
She'll
just
fact
going to
check.
be
She'll
pushing
fact check the fact
policies
checker.
for the next 4 years. Policies full send.
Look, this is
Full
what I
send
said.
policy.
This is actually what I'm most excited about. Was I said, like, whoever wins, let it be a landslide.
It has to be, right?
Because that's the only way we move forward as a country. If it was
with peace, right?
With
Yeah.
peace, it like if it was gonna be blue, let it be fully blue, and that's what the people want. Give them what they want. Let's see in 4 years. If it's gonna be red, let it be fully red.
Full red wave.
So that because they can then enact what they're actually gonna do. Otherwise, you're just gonna gonna be
Biden
this,
got 80 million votes in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala just got a little over 60.
60,
Where
yeah.
did the 20 million go?
To Trump.
It's crazy.
I think some
no,
Trump
isn't that
and
a
some
crazy
undecided.
swing?
They just
That's a
didn't.
crazy swing.
Yeah, here it is.
I feel like the tide turned, honestly, talking about Elon, I feel like when he bought X, the tide started turning.
I actually think
Talk about
yes. I
technology.
think I think there's a few key moments. I definitely think X was a big step, but I think the assassination attempts
That was huge.
Assassination.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's look at where it went right for Republicans and where it went wrong for Democrats. I
Yep.
think where it went right for Republicans was the fight motto. Like, oh, this is serious. They're really trying to neutralize. It's
Yeah.
the judicial. It's weaponizing the DOJ. I think it is the attempted assassinations. The
Yep.
proclaiming he's Hitler. Everything like that was like, oh, you guys are just showing all your cards.
Yep.
Then I think on the left, I think all they had, I think they underestimated America is not, you can't just run with a kill babies like plan and America's going to sign up for that.
Yeah.
Because what I'm fascinated by is I'm watching social media. And obviously on the day of the election, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew, hey, this is where I'm aligning my vote. Not as the pastor of Vive Church, as a person.
Sure.
This is what I'm voting values for these reasons, right? And at the end of the day, when everyone who is reacting, oh no, this is terrible, I think my question was to be, what policies on the left, as a Christian, were you ignited by? Because obviously there's millions of non-Christians who have voted for Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and the policies.
Right.
So what are Christians voting for?
That's interesting, huh?
Maybe you could tell me, because you've
Yeah.
got a lot of
It's not policies, though.
friends, family
Yeah,
that
yeah.
told you they're voting left. What was the policies that stood out to them?
I think for them, it's what people are mourning now is this idea that we've now let in a new wave of racism, misogyny.
Where does that come from?
They say things that Trump has actually said.
Like what?
At one of his rallies, he brought, and I'm still trying to find it, but apparently at one of his rallies, he brought up like an African-American conservative and was like, hey, here's one of the good ones, which is language that pulls back to back in the day when the slaves, there will be like good slaves and bad slaves.
That's a
And
reach.
then I'm here to just share what it is. So when they hear things like that, or
No, see, why I'm saying that's a reach is
Yeah.
because what it is, it's actually nothing Donald Trump has said. It's the gaslighting of the left that will take a snippet of something and blow it up like they just so obviously did with his rally at the Madison Square Garden. See, Adolf Hitler had rallies. And it's like,
Right.
well, hang on, everyone's
But
had-
I mean, during his first term, he did definitely say things that were inflammatory, like calling poor black countries as whole countries, and calling, like there are things he's actually said out of his mouth that when you watch it in isolation, but we kept saying like, but he's equal opportunist offender, like that's just his, like he doesn't, he's not PC with how he says things, and there are certain things like we know, like, oh yeah, maybe not say it that way, like maybe not, but
Sure.
he's just but that's just how he truly is. Like he's not, if you're Jewish, if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're white, if you're male, like he's going to come at you. If you're disabled, like he's going to come at you with a more direct sort of attack. And I think that rhetoric, they're saying like, hey, this is not like even people in our church, like they're saying like, now you're going to tell your kids that you've now elected you can have 34 felonies, you can grab women by their whatever, you can do all these things. And
that was a crazy thing.
And we,
Yeah.
like we forget, like it's not just like in
what was a crazy thing?
The grabbing the...
No. That's absolutely rubbish. Okay, let me just speak to what that is. Imagine that at all times, and like anybody's going to hear this, and I'm a pastor. Okay, there is different rooms that you're in where there is like with your, just say with your brothers or you're with your best friend, and there's someone there with a little secret tape recorder, and you guys are joking, or even if you comment or laugh at something that maybe been inappropriate in that moment, it's not you're being hung out on that one thing as if that's who you are. Come on, like we're going to claim that everything on the left just because it hasn't been recorded, because you weren't a millionaire and people weren't always trying to get a got you on you, that there hasn't been any kind of disreputable thing you've ever said.
right.
Oh,
But,
come on.
right.
Come
but-
on.
But
These people are swearing out
that's
of
a
the left
game.
side of their mouth while they're accusing him out of the right side of their mouth.
1,000%,
Come on.
But
like,
they know how to play the game.
right.
Like
right.
Kamala's like her
because
whole,
she's a career politician, right? So
that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
he's and that's one thing that's kind of is breath of fresh air is you see what you get. But at the end of the day, we're not, at least I'm not saying that like everything that Trump stands for, his his marriage record, his all these things is like a model of Christianity and pillar. And I think they're feeling like Christians that are supporting him are amening his entire lifestyle.
Right. So do you think that, do you think Trump's a Christian?
I don't know.
See, I'm not sure if he is.
I don't know, yeah.
I don't think that that's where most people vote because he's a Christian, but his policies line up with Christian values more than on the left.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to find sure, okay, be upset with the person, but you're voting for an America that you want to live in.
What they're saying though is you're trusting that this person now is going to, like, he's saying one thing, but how do you know when he gets there he's going to do it?
Okay, but you already know what the other party were saying they're going to do. And you go, cool, we know they're going to do that because they said they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So versus, is he going to do what he says?
Yeah. Rather
than she's definitely going to do what she said.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're going to open up abortions and we're going to, seriously, I think I'm just confused about what.
Well, she also did a campaign that was presented on, I'm here for the middle. I'm here for the person Trump could never relate. Because her whole thing was like, even when Obama came up to chastise black men, she's like, well, she grew up like you. Like, she knows you. She understands your struggles. Like, vote for her, right? And this whole thing of like, I can relate because I'm just like you. I didn't grow up like a billion, And so I think that there is some thing of like, well, now you have this old white guy who's got billions of dollars that's going to give, tariffs. That's how's that going to help us, right? And cut down all the social welfare programs and cut down on education. It's going to gut all the soul and the heart of what makes our country kind.
Yeah, I think at the fundamental, what we've got is two scenarios here. If I'm looking for financial advice, I'm not going to someone in my situation.
Yeah, true.
Like, that sounds ridiculous, right? If I want financial advice, do I go to someone who's been in my situation, who's still in my situation? Or do I want someone who isn't in my situation, who has the business savvy in the sense to give me insights to help me get out?
Yep. But that's the thing, though. I think is in America, what we have is a country that has not defined the problem well. So you have some people that think the problem is racism, prejudice, and that's what we're trying to. And then you've got some people that think the problem is people can't put food on their tables. And what we saw last night was overwhelmingly the left and the mainstream media underestimated what people think the problem is.
Yes.
And they thought the problem was, oh, we really care about social justice issues. People will tell you they care.
Yeah, so
when they
that's
go
what
to
I'm
polls.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I can get it. A lot of non-Christians on the left, they would vote that way. I think where it gets confusing is as Christians, as Christ followers, where did you go, hey man, that left narrative appealed to me?
Because they don't see the abortion as a definitive, I have to agree with abortion. What they presented on the left was, we're just pro-choice. We're saying you get to choose. And so for a lot of Christians, they're saying, I wouldn't make that choice myself, but I don't think the government is the right institution to say to someone, you have to make this choice. And so when they're voting for the left, they're not thinking they're voting for abortion. They're not thinking they're voting for, they're saying like, no, we want people to have. I just
think it's such a lame excuse.
I think people that vote on principle are gonna probably stay in their voting pattern for a really long time. It's gonna be really hard to sway somebody that's voting on principle. I still think in this election that those that swung or go back and forth actually still vote on sentiment, still vote on tone. Actually, what I saw that it was drastically different from 2016, 2020 in terms of Trump is the tone around Trump has completely shifted.
Yeah.
We went from that, grab women parts conversation and we went from the clips that, yes, a lot of clips were gaslit, right? To long form podcast content where, and I agree, like you shouldn't ping somebody on one moment, but if you can put somebody in a 3-hour podcast, you can make a more informed sentiment about that person, right? And I found that it was a more balanced perspective this time around. And I feel like a lot of people completely shifted their tone and their sentiment. And they, like, in 2020, if you voted for Trump, nobody was saying you voted for Trump. In 2016 even, right? But people are like so much more proud because there's so much more positive sentiment. It's not obviously 100% positive sentiment, but it's more than it's ever been in 8 years, in my opinion.
But there's definitely groups of people, though, that see a vote for Trump is a vote for racism, misogyny,
for sure,
transphobia, homophobia.
But then you found that that's not the majority.
But that's not the majority. That's
Right.
what that's what I
Again, I'm speaking to Christians here. I'm not speaking to non-Christians. Just for a moment, if you're a Christian, just listen to me. And you are somewhere lost in your despondence now. The truth of the matter is, this is what we have with this presidency, and I think why we saw such a red wave, and I don't know why it's confusing to Christians who voted blue. What you missed is you got caught up in a whole narrative of lies, gaslighting that you were projected to. I feel like this is your wake-up moment. And I'm saying that with all the kindness in my heart. Wake up. You've literally got caught into a sleep and a slumber where you have had such a narrow window to what you believe that you got caught up with a whole bunch of lies. The truth of the matter is, we saw 4 years under Trump. We saw 4 years under Biden-Harris. And we're like, the popular vote of America, the majority of Americans, Christians and non-Christians, said, not doing that again.
Yeah.
We're going to go with this. And to be amongst those who were in the minority as Christians voting is very confusing to me. How that you could be caught up and miss so much of what most of America saw. That's what I find confusing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think though now, looking even how people voted, you definitely are challenged to keep on with that racism narrative. Because that's what I was saying.
Justify.
Because that's why I was like, it needs to be a decisive, so it can be like, not everyone in America can be racist.
You got to double down.
Like at some point, you got to be like, to your point, wake up and be like, because a lot of people are saying,
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
understand.
saying.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no, you have to wake up.
When's the wake up moment? This should be it, is what I'm trying to appeal to and hope to, that this is that wake up moment. Yeah. Let's lose the racist narrative. Can we just let that go for a moment? If that's the last nail thread that you're holding on to, you've got to be like, maybe I'm wrong. That's wisdom, is to ask, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Hopefully. I don't know. I think people they're just going to turn on each other.
I think with
like,
the
Latino men, you let us down as people of color. And it's like, well,
yeah.
But I thought you brought up a good point. Let's get off that train for a second, because I feel like a good point is the way that campaigning's done have to change. I think it was $15 billion.
Yeah.
$15 billion was spent on campaigning, where they say that the influence didn't come from the ads, the campaigns, it came from the podcasts. Well, that is a free version of communities that have been built.
Democrats raised, I think, almost twice as much money.
Yeah.
You can fact check that, but they raised way more money than Republicans. So it's interesting, huh? And obviously, in terms of long form podcasts, Trump worked way harder. He showed up to way more really influential podcasts. Obviously, the climax being Joe Rogan, right? Which is the most listened to podcast in the world. And I just think that if you listen to somebody for 3 hours, you'll have a more definitive, okay, I really don't like him, or he's actually okay, or I actually like him. You can't determine that on clips that are in your algorithm trying to convince you one thing, you know? And that's what's happened in 2016. That's what definitely happened in 2020. But I felt like it was more balanced. To me, I felt like there was this undercurrent in the last 4 years where most reasonable people I talked to would agree that, man, this plan that we signed up for 2020 that most people elected is really not working out that well. Right. Like we're in wars, like inflation is crazy. Definitely like I can't afford as much things as I used to be able to afford. The cultural narrative just got crazy.
Yeah.
Like
it really did.
Men and women boxing and, you know, all that type of stuff. Yep. Like there was just this fatigue of like, this is crazy town. Like we've actually gotten into like pandemic was crazy, but this is post-pandemic. It's crazy town.
Yeah.
And I think that the long form podcast allowed people to actually talk that out and have permission to have a platform to talk that out and actually identify, oh, there's more people like me. Right. And so I would have actually been very skeptical, like I was already skeptical going into the election.
Yeah.
I would have been so skeptical if Trump lost, to be honest, because the sentiment I was sensing was that, oh, wow, like this is not even just in the undercurrent conversations anymore. Yeah. This has made it mainstream because, in my opinion, podcast is mainstream. Yeah.
But don't you think people listen to who they are already leaning towards? So podcasts. And
that was my curiosity. I was like, am I in a bubble or am I actually hearing what the majority might be? That's what I was interested in. I was like, maybe I'm in a bubble because I feel like this is going to be a landslide.
Yeah.
No, and that's my point. So I don't want to keep going back to this point, but the wake up moment has to be: have I just echo chambered myself into a world of people reinforcing a belief that is actually built on a lie? But because I'm getting reinforced from every angle, I'm now shook as a Christian who voted this way, and I wasn't with the popular votes, and so now it's like really shook them to the core. But had they actually taken time, or from now, just instead of being upset and mad and America's going to hell or whatever they're saying, what if this is actually, you could just lay down your animosity just for a moment and go, hey, could I actually have gotten it wrong? Yeah. So now's an opportunity to
gotten what wrong?
My perspective. I could have I've got my vote. Wrong. I got my perspective wrong, or I believed people who were wrong. It's all wrong. Because it's not right. In the sense that isn't what the majority of Americans wanted. And that's what's been emphatically clear with this election is it was kind of like a steamroll. I mean, Trump won ground in areas that have been blue for 10 years. Yeah. Like, that's crazy.
This was like probably one of the most decisive victories in history.
It's probably the best, biggest political comeback in history.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes.
Like, that's wild. The swing of where Trump was.
Can we talk
to this?
But can we talk about this too?
That's crazy.
You remember last election cycle, all the Christians that were prophesying two-term president, and then they apologized.
Yes.
But they were
right.
Chris Valentin, come in the pot.
They were now
come in the pot.
And I remember,
right
honestly,
now.
I remember mocking them, being like, "Well, look, where's your prophetic
You've
word
come
now?"
a long way.
I have come a long way.
Yes. How does it feel to vote Republican finally?
I voted Republican before.
Have you?
I have. I think this time though, it was easy this time though, because to the points of what you said, the moment you actually not even listen, but interact with a community that is normal. I don't say normal, but just not so swayed one
emotionally
way.
charged.
Because when you're coming out of college, right? You literally are surrounded for 4 years of people that think like you. The professors are pushing you in the direction.
And radicalized.
When you go to grad school, like you're in such an intellectual bubble.
Yeah.
So then you go and you sort of then find people when you come out of those institutions that are similar to you, right?
Sure.
So then when you but once you actually interact with everyday Americans,
echo chamber.
And you you talk to people that's the thing I never understood, honestly, is like, for someone who voted Kamala, I'm not imputing on you an entire value system. I'm like, I want to get to know, I want to understand. And I found that a lot more on the right, like people willing to just at least have conversations. And even within the Republican Party, I find there's more dialogue of ideas. Yeah. There's like, you've got Vivek, you've got like, even when I listen to the podcast,
it's really diverse.
It's diversity of thought.
A thought, yeah.
On the left, it's like literally, if you don't think this way and follow this line, you have no place in this party. Like, because I know some people that are like, man, maybe I could be a conservative Democrat, and I'm like, oh, I can see you be a liberal Republican.
Yeah, but you can't be conservative Democrat
because there's no space for that.
And I think what I've seen, and even talking to some of our producers that set this pod up, they've noticed when they post something contrary to that it's an unfollow.
Yes,
it's not even. I'm reinforcing my echo chamber by eliminating anybody that thinks differently. Because I can't handle following somebody who thinks differently. So all you do is reinforce your little echo chamber, and now you are bewildered as to how did we lose the vote? Yeah. Because your world was so curated through canceling any other voice or opinion, instead of being open to maybe a contrary thought. I just can't handle that because it doesn't hold water.
Yeah, no.
If it held water, you would be able to have a conversation. But if your whole policies and that don't hold water, you're not going to be able to have a conversation. I think with that though, let's maybe we could look not in the past. Let's look in the future. Yeah. Because I'm excited. If this means Senate, and if it means House Republican, if the Republicans take the House, if Republicans have already taken the Senate, if we've got the president, what does this mean we can see or expect in your opinions?
I think a lot. I mean, there's a lot of possibility. My question though for you, Pastor Adam, as we dive into that, is how much do you think God wants to use politics to bring redemption in society?
I really do rest on. We had a town hall just a week before the election, just to bring leaders together in our community, and this was kind of like the tone. Is if the Bible makes it very clear, there is no leader that's ever appointed without God's authority. Both whether Biden. Or Obama or Trump or Stalin.
Wow.
That it is God allowing something. And sometimes you got to just rest that God has a bigger plan of maybe revealing a season of persecution to bring people back to him, or a season of blessing that you got to trust under the sovereignty of God.
Yeah.
That God has a bigger plan than what I'm seeing. And I think that what we're seeing right now is what we get to do is we get to do our best to actually steer it towards values. Because for me, when I think about godly values, I'm thinking about life. That's right at the primary.
Yeah.
Like how many
Pro-life.
How many children are now going to potentially be saved as a result of this presidency?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that I feel, just because murder is illegal, when it comes down to what do we want our government to do, first and foremost, law, murder has to be outlawed.
Do you don't think though that's because what Trump has really done is just got the decisions back to the state, and we saw Floridians. Shout out to Floridians.
Yep.
They said no, we're good.
Yep.
But majority, anytime abortion has been on a state ballot, it's essentially voted for. So you don't feel like as much as Trump, on the federal level, you don't think this might have like a backlash? So, for example, in California, they're going to be like...
For sure. We're going to have all the liberal governors who are going to give permission for abortions, but at least it's not a national permission.
Yeah.
That was Kamala's MO was we're going to make this a national permission, legalize it nationally, and it was going to be enforced and entrenched in history, never to be able to be changed. Okay, and so at least we have saved. What if it's like 13, 15 states, 50 states, 20 states, however many states.
Yeah.
Every state that bans abortion is another millions and millions and millions of children that are saved, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if Trump's a Christian. What I'm encouraged by, it seems like he was a lot more open in inviting pastors and listening to pastors. I think it's on pastors now that have his ear to hold him accountable to what he said.
Yeah.
To hold his administration accountable to as many of those Christian values as possible. Yeah. Even pushing the boundary a bit more on pro-life, right? Even pushing the boundary more on some of these other policies that Christians should be caring about. I was really impacted a few weeks ago. I got to spend time in DC. We had a spiritual heritage tour in the Capitol building. And it was like this crazy situation where one of the Christian House representatives was in town and allowed us to get into the House chamber. Like we couldn't take any phones or anything like that in there, but we got in there and we got to hear from his heart. And he was telling us about in the House chamber, right? You have all the iconic judges in American history and actually in world history, basically surrounding the room, right? There's like a picture of them, kind of like a monument, but they're all facing away from the room, like their profile, right? But there's one that's facing over the room, directly over the room, and it's Moses.
Wow. And
Moses is facing on the back over the room, and it's a big sign in the front of the room. You've seen Pelosi there. You've seen a lot of people there, right? It says, "In God we trust."
Yeah.
Like if people don't think this is a Christian nation, this is absolutely founded as a Christian nation, and there's still very much a lot of people that are preserving it, trying to preserve it as a Christian nation. And so it just kind of reminded me that, okay, the founding fathers, they were even telling us this story, and I want to study it more, where if you actually look at the Declaration of Independence and you compare it to some of the sermons that were written and preached in that day, the language in the sermons that was preached before the writing of the Declaration of Independence, those statements in those sermons are found in the Declaration of Independence. And so pastors actually had an influence on the founding fathers and how they declared and decreed how this country should run and the values that it should stand for. And it just got me thinking, okay, I don't know exactly what the perspective was about Rome in Jesus's day and how much it would be redeemed in that time. But it's very clear that America has a lot more Christian principles embedded in its foundation than Rome did, right? We've made progress in that regard. And I'm just like, how much does God have for us in the next 4 years to bring more redemptive value?
And I think for me as a Christian, right, so I get to vote. My main objective is to save people, see people saved, one to Jesus discipled. Okay, do I want to save people from wars and save people to the kingdom? Or do I just want the peace of not having wars so I can focus on saving them in the kingdom?
Right.
Or is there two kinds of saving we have to do? We have to save their normal human everyday life and their eternity? Or is it just, hey, at least they get to live, let's now on earth, let's save them for eternity as well. And so I think that you get to create the world by a vote that lines up with life and I think economic policies and all those kinds of things. I think it's interesting. I don't know if you saw this today, but stock market.
It's ripping.
High.
Oh my gosh.
Bitcoin reached a new high. I know all my crypto bros are quietly rejoicing, even though they can't publicly in their woke workplaces, but they are quietly celebrating.
A16Z's full send, but yeah, everybody else.
No. I think there's still some woke bros in the crypto world, but that for me is like interesting how. What does that mean? What does that mean from an economic point of view? The sentiment, whether people are public about it or not, but there's so much belief because the stock market talks.
And when it was definitive that Trump won, I think it started ripping because the stock market is mainly driven by perception, right? So actual events that happen, it gets priced in pretty quickly. And so if there is big pops, it's just perception, right? And I think the perception is able to justify itself because at least Trump was clearer about his economic policies. And so the market loves clarity. The market hates uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, it'll dip, it'll dive, right? But if you can create clarity of what's the plan, what are we going to do?
So it reveals confidence.
There's hype, right? There's positive optimism. That's why I woke up this morning and I haven't really been on Instagram, but I don't have, I guess, an echo chamber that's super depressed and bummed right now. But I do open up my stock market app and see that everything's up and to the right. I'm like, man, this is a rosy day. This is
a green day.
This is incredible. Where I think, where there's going to have to be a reconstruction if the Democrats want to come back in any sort of meaningful way, is they're going to have to realize, okay, at least on economics, we got to get a lot more clear because there was even just questioning. Kamala had said once, and she tried to retract it, where she's going to tax unrealized capital gains, which is just crazy. So it's like all that uncertainty is just not great for the stock market, right?
Now I'm hoping, like, honestly, over the next 2 years, I'm going to give him at least 2 years to deliver. Because I think
that's nice of you.
I think 2 years. I think we get 2 years to deliver. Because I do think right now
you've
we're
got
sensing
President Trump. If you know,
it's
Michelle has given you 2 years.
Because we don't know who's running the country right now. We don't
know
now,
right,
literally, because no one's running it.
No.
But I'm saying that to say to continue, because realistically, Trump can't fix everything that's wrong right now, right? Like it's been
they forecast it's going to take at least 8 years.
Exactly, and he's only got
JD
one more term.
will have to pick up.
You think it's going to be JD next?
That would be the natural incumbent, wouldn't it?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah. He's coming off pretty strong right now. He started off rocky. But
he did.
Because he's got one more term left. Right. So you've got to forecast that halfway through the term, if he can start to steer it, it would be giving JD more experience in there, having a hand on building a reputation, which Kamala didn't. So as a VP, what's his reputation going to be? Because biggest question was, what was her greatest achievement, or what was any achievement? And so that if the Republicans learn from that, if the Republicans are smart,
irony.
they will halfway through start giving JD a little bit more leadership to build a resume,
right?
So that he could be a natural choice of, hey, there's already experience, there's resume, there's reputation, there's already notoriety, youth, all that kind of stuff. Youth without the volatility of youth with experience. That's the key, that double thing. But what I do want to maybe ask about is, could we ever trust polls again?
No. Oh man, that's actually a good point.
So
my gosh, ridiculous. They had Kamala leading.
But the betting poly market was convincingly Trump. So that's why there was such a confusion. You got the silver bullet. You've got all these polls. They're scams. And Donald Trump said it on the Joe Rogan.
It's a massive scam.
Well, he said it. He said, I just don't trust the polls because they're scam artists. They just who's ever been asked by a poll? Like who's ever had a phone call? And everyone you talk to, no one's ever had a phone call.
Yeah.
So how they've got no accountability? Who are they polling?
Well, even last night, all the mainstream media is just. I mean, and X is propaganda to an extent, but like mainstream media is so blatantly propaganda that even last night, Trump is clearly going to win. They're like, we're still tallying.
We need to wait for all the votes. We need to wait for all the votes.
Oh my God.
I think Rachel Maddow was crying at one point, and it was like, Rachie. No, it was bad. But I think it's interesting, right? Like what do we move away? I'm coming back to, the podcast format of campaigning. Okay, we're spending billions of dollars on campaign. Yep. Should there be a limit to what a campaign can spend? Because
interesting.
Where are we asking? Where could that money be better spent?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah.
$15 billion.
Yes.
And
it's making a lot of our tech bro friends more rich.
But if you think about it, we had only one presidential debate.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because to your point, I think it is like back in the day, you would have them actually go at it and present both their visions. You can actually have unbiased, not that you have three versus one. You actually have unbiased, like they will be asking questions.
See,
And I
like the all-in Joe Rogan podcast style where
so helpful.
You can sit down for a 3-hour conversation, hear not just even their policies, but just how they talk. What's their values? What do they see and talk?
Yeah.
And if you could hear both
sides in the same format.
And I think people just didn't hear from Kamala.
Yeah, she didn't show up on any.
Didn't show up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sure, and that was the revealer that there was no beyond a script, it couldn't actually sustain. So, okay, cool, you missed out. So what I'm wondering is if we get rid of polls, we put a limit on how much you can, spend on your campaign, and just go the free versions of, established podcasts that maybe.
I think it's a way to
get them a hype pod.
Yeah, have
we would welcome any presidential.
Oh, please come.
Yeah, we called Kamala. She didn't want to show up.
She did.
That's what everybody's saying.
Yes,
that's like their favorite line. Yeah, we called her. I don't know if they've actually called her.
We extend the same opportunity.
Yeah.
If you're listening, we're extending. That's right.
Did you guys see the acceptance speech that Trump did?
I did. I stayed up for it.
Okay, so one thing
what stood out to you?
One thing that I gathered was that I'm like, this guy probably is one of the best dinner party hosts of all time. I was like, wow, you have politicians, you got Dana White, you have the U.S. Open champion.
Where is he? Get on.
Yeah.
This man would be so good in the Hype Network. Like he's just like such a
he
mix.
did what he did.
Yep.
And he's just in that setting. I know, again, the last 8 years for the most part, tone has been really bad.
Yeah.
But you saw him give that acceptance speech, and I don't know if you can look at that pragmatically and be like, he's not likable. Like he's just like, I'm like, dude, this guy is like, was probably like class president in high school or something.
Yeah.
He probably like, throws a good dinner. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Throws a good barbecue.
Yeah, I agree. What stood out to you from the acceptance speech?
Less what he was saying and more his family.
His family.
Yeah, his family.
His family. I think it hit me for the
Congratulating
first
his wife.
time. Like now being a parent, you had all your kids up, and they're adult to Barron. Barron's like,
Barron is a giant.
What in the world?
Is he 6'7"? I think he's 6'7".
Yeah, Kim's first comment.
He's
huge.
And Luke was like,
can you fact check how tall is Barron Trump for us, Katrina?
He's towered over Trump and Melania. I was like, where did these genes come from?
He is a giant. But I agree.
Family,
the family are there.
It's beautiful.
And the family are
it's
married.
beautiful.
The family, come on, the family.
We're united.
I think he's 6'9".
6'9"?
He's almost 7 foot.
Because Trump's a big man.
He's getting close. He's getting up there.
Yeah. Wow.
He looked.
18, so
he looked gigantic.
No, he's huge.
18 at 6'9".
So
crazy.
What you've got there is, I think, what we saw with Tim Walz and Kamala, it was and Biden, broken family, disjointed family, transgender family, all these twisted kind of backgrounded family. But at least with Trump, you've got hey, they're all there. Yeah. They all love each other. He called out all his children and their spouses. He spoke about his in-laws, and it was he gave honor to his wife's mother who passed away. Yeah, said she's a remarkable woman. Like, you didn't need to do any of that.
Nope.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have a script for that.
You did.
No, they took down. Did you see they took down
the teleprompters?
They took down the teleprompters. He just
that was him
freewheeling
at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
As a 70-something-year-old man. Like that's I think the most
legendary.
Yeah, we've got Dino. Dino's a great guy. Get up here, Dino.
Yeah.
Say a few words.
How about Susie that didn't want to talk? Did you see that? She was like, really didn't want to talk.
And Chris.
Susie freaked out.
Susie and Chris.
That's a big stage.
Well,
but his wherewithal to be like, Susie,
you know how we were saying this is the greatest.
I've never seen you like nervous like this.
No. But Susie and Chris, the greatest political comeback. We need to study them. Yeah, she's the reason.
Goodness.
I was like, finally we can see who's behind the scenes. So we see him, but it's Susie being like, go on this podcast, do this, be this, like, and Chris, and so she's like,
well, he credited Barron for the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, did he really?
Wow. Yeah, he said that Barron's telling me who I need to speak to, and he said you need to go on Joe Rogan, Dad. And so
go
I
ahead,
think,
Barron.
well, but that's cool, isn't it? Like, I mean, he's a 7-year-old father. What's Barron, 18 years old?
Yeah.
Lean into that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're thinking that you've got a president out of touch, well, guess what? He's got a son who's a
Gen
true. Zer.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So you're not going to get a leader who's got more invested interest in that generation.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Trump is a paradox, huh? Because as much as it's perceived that all he does is tear people down, in that setting, I felt like he had like a gift of encouragement. I was like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, like, and you know what's
paradox.
You know what's interesting is that in other settings that I've seen him speak about his kids, again, I don't know if he's a Christian, but one thing that had been admirable that he says consistently all the time, they're like, how do you kind of keep your family intact? For the most part, your kids are great and things like that. He's like, I just tell them, don't smoke, don't drink. Don't smoke. It's like oversimplistic, but kind of powerful guidance.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. He's like, I've never smoked. I've never drank in my life. And he's just like, I just know too many people. It just becomes a problem. But it's like, it seems so simple, but it's like powerful.
Was Tiffany there?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Fact checker. Man, we're
I
making
feel like maybe not all his
work.
children were there. Was one missing?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I can't admit that I know all the Trump kids.
No, I don't.
You don't?
I recently saw Laura.
You know them all?
The in-law. I don't know.
You don't?
Is that weird that I don't?
Yes.
Vance, I don't think that's weird.
You
I don't think
should
it's
know-
weird that we don't.
But you voted for this man. You don't know his kids.
I didn't vote for his family. I voted for him. Like, I voted for JD and him.
Little Vivek. The sweet Vivek.
I voted for policies, actually, to be honest with you.
That's true. That is true.
I didn't really necessarily
true.
even vote for the president. I voted for the policies that I believe in.
That proves it right there.
Yeah. But I think there was. I'm excited to see what this means. I really am. To not just have a Donald Trump in presidency, but to see the Senate, the House Republicans,
and
in
the
House,
team around him.
The team.
RFK.
So
Tulsi
make
Gabbard.
America healthy again. Tulsi, you've got Vivek, you've got Elon.
Is he going to get a role, though? I feel like Vivek is always kind of in the
I think he'll get a role.
outskirts.
I think he'll be like some either transport minister or something. he'll be something. He'll get something. Come on, he's gonna get a toe in. All right, he's definitely gonna get a toe in.
But he didn't get he didn't get an encouragement. He didn't get a shout out. I felt bad for him. I was like, he worked so hard.
Tulsi didn't get a shout out either.
Yeah, it's true.
True. Either did RFK. Actually,
RFK got a big shout out.
Did he?
He's like, just leave me my oil. Just leave me my oil. I said, that's like that was.
You can do anything else you
But
want.
don't touch
Enjoy.
my oil.
But don't touch my oil.
Drill, baby, drill. And but Vivek was on the front row, so he was down on the front row.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elon wasn't on stage either. So I
But
think
he talked about Elon for like 10 minutes.
He did.
The way he tells stories is so funny. He talked about this rocket in such a weird way for like 2.5 minutes.
And the arms came around it and gave it a hug.
And then he goes, it was really good looking when it lifted, but then it got
Who
really
was the
ugly.
guy he put
What's
on
up
hold
with the
for
paint?
45 minutes? Did you catch that? He was like, this is the most powerful guy in politics, but I had him on hold for 45 minutes.
What a flex. No, Trump just
I
loves to
love
flex. I don't even think it was anybody. It's just, he
no,
loves
but
to
who's
flex.
more powerful than the president?
Exactly.
So one of the books. Yeah. But I think that there is I think that what Vivek will do, I think he could do a number of good things.
Yeah.
I think the Doge, the Department of something efficiency.
Government
efficiency.
Yeah.
Isn't that Elon or
Yeah.
is it? Yeah,
That's
that's
Elon.
so amazing.
I'm
Elon is a genius.
I'm really excited
He's
about
an actual
letting.
genius.
I mean, his acronyms are amazing.
It's amazing.
He's using Dogecoin,
Yeah.
Doge. He's clever.
He's so clever. He's like planned this all out for a decade. He's dominating right
playing 6D
now.
chess.
It's crazy.
6D chess.
He's playing chess with robotic arms. So yeah, but I think that's
Yeah.
going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think it's one, fun to watch, but two, it's essential for our economy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a pastor that obviously pastors a church right in the heart of the Silicon Valley, right? And so we don't know exactly the stats, but let's just say that our church is split in the middle in terms of red and blue. What's your approach, right? Like, what's your approach of, I don't know I'm just, hypothetical, but like, what's your approach to how you pastor a congregation like that? Because not every congregation is like that in America, right?
Yeah. They're either all red or all
Right.
blue.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got my standard policy is there are platforms I can speak about politics on that shouldn't be the Sunday platform. I don't want to adulterate my Sunday platform. I want it to be about Jesus. I want it to be about biblical things. I want it to be about stewardship. I want to be a discipleship.
Well, this past Sunday, you even said people are more passionate about Trump than Jesus.
Yeah. Which I'm like, come on, like let's prioritize Jesus.
Yeah.
But then I want to create town halls. I want to create leaders meetings or podcasts, different platforms where, as a human being, I can actually share my convictions as just realizing that regardless of what people think, I am a leader in a community. And so there is a responsibility for people who are in the community that I've built and developed for them to know, what do I think?
Yeah.
Whether they want to follow or not, that's up to them. But at least, what does the leader of this community think? And so that's why I want to put it out there. Now, what I want to do in a way, whereas I'm open to conversation, because something that I don't do things without conviction. I'm very convicted on every decision that I make. I think long and hard about it. And I know a lot of people don't think much about their decisions. They just follow.
Yeah.
But as a leader of a community, you don't get to follow. You have to be a leader. So you have to think through everything. So I'm always open to helping people see why I see what I think. But loving people in their decision.
Yeah. Wow.
Regardless. So I think that the way I'm pastoring our church in this season is I'm hoping that I can illuminate some things to people.
Yeah.
It's not going to be me that determines that. It's going to be them.
Yeah.
Whether they just shut out, close, I'm not following pastor anymore or whatever, So I've already got a couple of conversations booked up with people in some of our campuses.
Good.
And we're going to see what it leads to. Hopefully fruit.
How does that go when obviously the iron sharpens iron, process? Do you feel, and I know it is mostly on them if they want to be influenced or not, but do you feel like there are certain approaches, tactics that you found successful in positive influencing, or even the other way around? Have you been illuminated to some things that have helped kind of even shape some of your thoughts?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm under a pastor as well.
Yeah, good.
Who has challenged the way I've thought about stuff before. And, I think when I've realized that I've kind of, even in seasons past, probably been a little bit too one-dimensionally ignorant to the bigger picture.
Wow.
And when I'm in a conversation with my pastor, he's been able to unpack much deeper levels of what this means on a historical setting and a future setting and even a spiritual setting that for me, I'm like, wow, I can't deny that. Like that now builds a deeper conviction. So that's what I want to do, is I want to kind of get people off the facade of what it looks like on the surface to maybe dig in a bit deeper to what it means spiritually.
Beautiful.
Strongholds, the demonic. We believe in the demonic. We believe that there is a demonic force that wants to move through things.
Yeah.
And the balance is, how do I not over-spiritualize it, but how do I not under-spiritualize it?
Yeah, that's so
good.
true.
Because they're both in play.
Yeah.
And I think it's at the same time, my hope is to educate and challenge. And my goal is not even to convince people.
No.
Because I want them to build a conviction of what they are convinced of themselves.
Yeah, it's probably the enemy's plan that we all just keep saying surface level things.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's probably the enemy's plan.
It's distraction.
Is to stay in the facade.
And this is where I get frustrated with the gaslighting of racism and that kind of stuff, because it's a distraction. It's a distraction. You're getting blinded. You're literally got narrow tunnel vision. You're just going to hang everything on that. But hang on. Just stop. Wake up. Get out of that frame of mind and look at what's bigger than that one narrative you've pushed for the last 8 years now.
Yeah.
So we're on this series of discipleship, right? These past couple weeks. And so what's interesting is that the Great Commission is very clear. It's actually not to go and make believers. It's to go and make disciples.
Exactly.
Right? Obviously, that's connected. But I had this thought of like, you know, in settings where obviously, you know, I have employees that work for me that don't believe in Jesus yet, right? Hopefully they will have opportunities to. And if God can use me to do that, that'd be amazing. But, you know, maybe 70% believe in Jesus in my company, maybe 30%, let's say, for example. But can I still make disciples, right? Because, you know, disciples of Jesus is very specific. You have to believe in Jesus. But disciples, that term is just a follower, right? And so I just think it's interesting. I know the ultimate commission is followers in Jesus. I just thought it was an interesting thought around, in general though, like, are you leading in a way where you're influential enough where people can be influenced, where people can follow? You know what I mean?
Well, I think disciples, I mean, you've got digital disciples, you've got crypto disciples. I mean, it depends what your field of discipleship is. My field is very clear. Everything is geared towards leading people to Christ.
Yeah.
Because I want to make people followers of Jesus, the way that Paul presented it, follow me, follow Christ.
Exactly.
So I want my leadership to point them towards Christ. I think, you know, the Great Commission is go and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So it's disciples of Jesus. I have got people in my world who aren't believers, but there is a very clear agenda
For sure.
that I have there.
Totally.
That I want to lead them to Jesus. So I can't just keep them as a friend and go, well, I'm not going to bother evangelizing to them or influencing them. It can't just be a friend. Like my neighbor, I can't just be a neighbor. I'm talking to him about Jesus all the time. I'm talking about what I do as a minister. I've got a very clear pathway to discipleship. I don't have friends that aren't Christians just to have friends.
Sure. Yeah, and that's really good. I think the work context is also interesting as well.
Yep.
In that, can you even have certain principles, values, policies within your team or your company to where it leads to flourishing because it's aligned with biblical principle, right? I can't convince you, I can't force you to believe in Jesus, but maybe if I have a level of leadership or influence to be able to set policies. And that's what's exciting, right? What's exciting about what we have an opportunity for in the next 4 years is that, okay, not everybody in America tomorrow is going to believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
But can we continue to vote in policies? Can we continue to vote in values that will lead to maximum flourishing? Right?
Yeah, I think if you hire people who aren't believers, you have just put a huge responsibility on your life to live in such a high level of reputation.
There you go.
that you model Jesus. Yeah. So you've just put pressure on your life because now I'm the only Jesus they're seeing. So the way that they're going to ever think of Jesus is me as a Christian as the example. At least if you hire Christians, they've got other examples of Christian leaders and pastors and whatnot. But if you hire non-Christians, that's huge pressure because it would be sad of a Christian employer. And if you're building a business and you've got non-believers, what a sad reality would be. I'm just going to use them to build my business.
Right.
You should be using your business to win them.
Yeah.
So that should be the goal. If there's a goal in there, and maybe you're right. You're not going to be like, hey, here we're all Christians, and you better. No, it's like, but these are the values.
Beautiful.
This is what we believe. This is how we're going to operate. If you don't like that, then God bless you in your next venture. But if you can handle this, come on the journey.
Yeah, I think even when you follow that verse all the way through, it says, go make disciples, baptizing them. And then it also says, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you.
So good.
And I think that teaching them to obey part, like a disciple is someone who follows, but also obeys what Jesus does. And to your point earlier, it's like, you can set up, I think, environments where you have policies that align or principles in the business world or in the governmental world where you can, it's like I can create an atmosphere that makes it easier for you to teach so you can obey Christ.
So good.
And there will be environments that will make it very hard for you to obey Christ because of the policies in place, and so, for people, to your point earlier, for Christians that are like, well, what's going to happen? The one thing I say is that they seem to resonate with people that voted the other way was, I really do think it's going to be much easier to be a Christian for the next 4 years.
For sure.
Like, you're going to be able to really walk out your values in a very open way that would not have been possible.
Yeah.
And so that's probably in the business context, taking that lens is what atmosphere am I creating?
But I think my appeal from this particular pod post-election is I'm just appealing to Christians.
Yeah.
Christians who didn't maybe vote a certain way, they're upset right now. If this could be my one appeal, maybe just take a breath, open your eyes, and consider what you haven't seen. Consider
Can you break that down then?
Consider what the majority of the country saw that you are completely bamboozled by right now.
What break that down? Like, if they're listening right now, like, okay, what am I not seeing?
Well, it's more what you're not able to see beyond, which is this gaslighting about racism and misogyny and, white supremacy and, January 6th riot insurrection, all that gaslighting crap, felony, all that angled. Isn't it funny? Who's the guy who was prosecuting Trump? Pack? Is it?
In New York?
Yeah. Well, the DOJ just fired him, by the way. What's his name?
Oh.
Come on,
I don't
guys.
know.
Come on. Yes, you do. You guys know. Fact check. What? Oh, I love having a fact checker. Actually, it's pretty handy. Is she any good at fact checking? What's his name? I think it's Pack. Is it?
Is it Pack?
Oh. Come on. The guy who's doing the prosecuting, the special counsel. The
Yeah.
special counsel. It's not Pack. No. Pack somewhere. That's someone else. Packer.
Alvin Bragg? District Attorney Alvin Bragg?
No. Come on, guys.
Jack Smith?
Jack Smith, thank you. Yeah, Jack Smith. Special counsel Jack Smith. Jack, not Pack. Jack Smith.
Jack Smith.
I don't
You're
know
kind
what
of
that-
close, actually, in a weird way.
It's
Jack Smith.
he's the guy who's been, like the pit bull going after Trump.
Yeah.
Well, they just fired him today
So he's been digest.
Wow.
to get him out before Trump gets in. Okay, but so there is so much corruption that people have believed, and now they're like, well, he's a felon. Well, okay, you got to wake
Yeah,
up
you're
and
right.
look at all of the situations around those so-called felonies, and I think there is in the trials and how rigged
They're
they
winding
were.
down. Yeah, they're winding down.
They're
all that.
winding down their investigation. They're not going to be pushing for trial and all that kind of stuff. So, hello. Now is the moment to go, oh, isn't it funny how it's all
if it was
falling
really
apart?
true,
If it was true, they'd be pushing through.
Yeah.
So I want to make this appeal to go, hey, get deeper. Go a little bit deeper than the surface level. That
How
would
would
be
you
my
recommend that it go deeper?
appeal. I think probably just do your own research and investigation. Probably first thing is get out of your echo chamber of cancel culture. I think what goes with the left is cancel culture. So the moment someone doesn't say what you have heard, you've cancelled them. You've just literally shrunk your world to a small pinhole of narrative. Widen the aperture. Widen the aperture and start listening to conversations, podcasts, or different things that will give you a broader understanding where you can actually exercise some thought, challenge some thought, maybe start to build a different feed from MSNBC or something like that. You know, get Daily Wire, or just get some thought leaders in the space that would maybe just provoke you. If it provokes you, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
It probably if it gets you a little bit triggered, it's a good thing. But see if your argument can hold water in conversation. What I found even with the town hall is, sometimes people can submit questions bold online, but when they have to actually do it in a conversation, all the energy gets sucked out, because now I'm hearing me say it and it doesn't actually make sense when it comes out of my mouth, and I have to be able to hold it in a conversation. So get out of the online warrior mode and get into actual conversation with people.
For leaders that are listening to this, because there's entrepreneurs, there might be even other pastors. How did the town hall go?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant.
What did you like about it?
Well, ask Michelle, she was there.
So just so you know the format, we basically had people ask questions live of Pastor Adam primarily, and he could just respond to it as they
It was here in Mountain View.
It was here in Mountain
in
View,
the lobby.
and we focused it really. Here's the I think
I wasn't
the
up there.
key-
Michelle was up there.
I was up there.
She was the antagonist.
I was trying to be, but you wouldn't let me. But we focused it. I think here's the key: is you need people in the room that are invested in the community,
Right.
Because if you just open it up to people that are willing to tear down what you're trying to build,
it's not a fair conversation.
It's not.
Yeah.
So you had people that had different, like trying to genuinely understand, genuinely learn. They may not quite understand, may not quite agree,
Yep.
but these were leaders and things like that. So that already, I think, set the tone of the town hall. So the way they would ask questions came with a level of just, genuinely trying to understand. I think a lot of people got clarity at least on where we stood as leadership.
Where was the themes that people were touching on?
I think one of the biggest themes that was shocking to people is they believed that Republicans is a white evangelical party.
Yeah.
But what they saw in the room was probably 2% white.
Yeah.
Right.
And hang on, these are a lot of Christians that aren't white evangelicals,
Yes. Right.
but they're people of color who have got deep intelligence, conviction, and I think that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I think so. Because, our community specifically is fairly racially diverse. And so it's sort of hard to sort of perpetuate narratives about what a Republican looks like or what a Trump voter looks like.
That's cool.
Because you're literally like going to church with these people that you love and, all that stuff. So I think it was eye-opening. I probably would have wanted it to go a little bit
More
spicier.
spicy.
I think so. I think people were just, for the first, because it was our first one, so I
They're
think it was a
tiptoeing a bit.
little bit. Because I could see the question within the question. Like there was one question, they talked about the white evangelicals a little bit, or the question about like the initial question was about abortion, and then
What's the
follow-up-
deeper part of that though? So it's like, because I think this is what the party is, I'm not going to be represented in how the government cares for me. Is that the deeper point?
Yes.
Because like that also still seems a little bit surface. I'm not trying to minimize their feelings about it. I'm just saying it still seems a little bit surface. Right.
Yeah, I think there's a thinking that white evangelicals have a power, I suppose, in the Republican Party.
Got it.
That other
That will ignore them.
That will ignore them, which
in
is why
policy.
Kamala primarily, she did go to a lot of churches, but they were all black churches.
Right.
And so primarily Democratic churches tend to be African American.
Okay. Got it.
And so if you were to say like pick a church and say guess the party, if you looked at the racial makeup, you'd probably guess red or blue just based on that, and be right maybe 8 out of 10 times. So I think there is that thinking is that like, oh, I actually don't see people that look like me in this party. I don't really see, but to the point of like going deeper, it's, but do you hear what you believe in being said by this party? And maybe, yes, there was, and historically there was a point, I think Republicans forgot to look up and look at what does our nation look like, and do we actually have everyone at the table here that probably still have the same beliefs and values. I know black conservatives who've had a hard time breaking into the Republican Party because there have been a little bit of barriers there, but they're still pushing through, and I think you're seeing at the RNC, it was way more diverse than I've ever seen it be. But I do think the one thing about Republicans is like they're like, we believe this, we're not going to just do tokenism for the sake of it.
Right,
Where on the
exactly.
other side, they would 1,000% be
Oh,
like,
tokenism,
we're going to
yeah.
look like, we care about what you're saying.
I would definitely like it to be a little bit more spicy too, but
It's the first time you did it.
first time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
However, my look, just closing thoughts, my takeaways are from this election, next cycle election, let's get rid of polls. Let's get rid of, let's put a cap on how much you can spend in campaigning. Let's do voter ID. That's what I just think.
How is that like a thing? Like why?
I don't understand.
Why would we have voter ID? That's so crazy.
That's why I think we've saved the country. I know it sounds dramatic, but I think this election saved the country. I think that if the election went the other way, it would have just opened borders. We would have flooded legal immigrants. It would have maximized fast-track citizenship to vote a particular way. Then I think different states would have been doubled down, because you can look how close some of the states still were. I know it was like red across the board, but some were within 100,000.
Oh yeah.
And if you've got 15 million illegal immigrants coming through that can get citizenship and voting status, then they're obviously going to lean a particular way. You've literally flooded what was the gap in the popular vote? 20 million?
I don't know what the exact count is, but it was a wide gap.
Yeah.
Closer than that.
It was closer,
It was
but yeah.
close, yeah.
But it was.
So 15 million over what last 3 or 4 years. Over the next 4 years, could be way more if it had gone the other way.
But here's the thing: I still do we now have faith again in our democracy system after last night?
Mean?
Do we believe because before that the
No, I don't think we
sentiment
do.
was like, oh, the polls are corrupt, but then we saw this overwhelming majority. Is it that like just so many people showed up that they couldn't fake it?
Yeah, I think so.
Versus in 20, okay.
I think so. I think that
2020 was closer, right?
2020 was
pretty close.
way closer.
Yeah,
it was way closer than this year, for
sure. But I think, to the January 6th insurrections of they stole the election. That narrative.
Well, you got to go back and look at Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was that sudden overnight. It was the stolen election was running around Georgia and Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay, and you saw the graph, and then last night you could call it from about 60% counted.
Yeah.
After about 60% counted, it didn't change much.
Yeah.
Traditionally, historically, it's always been that way. But last election in Pennsylvania, which decided the election, in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., it shot up perpendicular and then overtook. And that's where they're like, hang on. So
why did that happen this year?
Because I think they made sure that they had eyes on everything. No one was going to sleep. No one was going to bed.
That's true.
It was just too much eyes on it.
That's true.
And I think it was just too convincing.
Yeah.
Like the win. It wasn't narrow enough for there to be a spike or a thing. I think there was so much scrutiny. But still, while there is no ID to vote, it is fraudulently open. It is so easy to fraud.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, on that, my takeaway is I still don't know why we're voting with pen and paper. So in the Hype Network, if somebody can work on that, that'd be great.
But I think it's the pen and paper is the hard one to fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do digital banking. We do digital transfers all day long.
Ton of
fraud.
Issues with that.
No, there's a ton of fraud, but there are ways to do. I don't think that in the next 10 to 20 years it's going to be pen and paper. You guys think it's going to be pen and paper?
I think that's
so.
the move.
I
think the only way to actually to keep it fraud free is every ballot has a pen and paper, and it goes that machine that scans. Like when you did your multiple choice, back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody can figure out how to keep that same fraud rate with digital, massive opportunity. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying, massive opportunity.
I mean, the more we go online, unless it's there's some blockchain solution that
that's what I'm saying.
Does it, because otherwise it's just so hackable.
It's so
for sure.
It sounds
yeah. But I'm just
China
saying,
in our elections and stuff like that.
But if somebody figures it out, that's a huge opportunity.
I don't know. I don't trust humanity that well, though. I think
hey, never say never.
Check someone's ID, be like, hey, are you? Yep. Okay.
But in California, they weren't. So
no, you couldn't show your ID.
No, they match signatures.
I actually think we go to a public holiday on election day.
That'd be cool.
That would be nice.
That mail-in voting is only for a certain reason.
Yeah.
You have to. It's like you have a.
because you're saying fraud rates are higher.
Huge.
On the mail-in. Yeah.
But I think it's how
so convenient,
you have
though.
a handicap parking thing. I think those situations also lend to mail-in voting specifically. I think it's a public holiday. You show up to ballots.
But the lines.
No, you just open up more ballots. So churches, we could open up the church here to do have a ballot box station, that kind of stuff, systems. I think there is definitely ways to do it.
You make it a whole day.
Yeah, make it a whole day. Make it a festival. Election festival.
Your closing thoughts, Michelle.
Actually, I wanted to hear who you guys think 2028 will be.
Really? You already think about 2028?
Yeah, JD Vance.
Everyone's okay. JD Vance and who?
Oh, yeah.
Who's his running mate?
Maybe Vivek. Maybe.
Yeah, JD and Vivek. Let's go.
JD and Vivek.
Yeah, that'd be power.
On Democratic ticket. Because they're working on that.
I don't
today.
know if there's anybody
Newsom.
over there.
I think Newsom's in the running.
I think Newsom.
Well, maybe we can get a new governor then. That'd be great.
Yeah, Newsom.
Because he's our president. I don't know.
No.
He won't make president.
No, because he's so busy.
Yeah, I don't think.
Oh, running.
Yeah.
You don't think? Do you think Kamala will run again?
No.
You think she's
The DNC won't let her.
No, she lost so bad. There's no way.
No, I don't even think she's going to have a role in politics after this.
Newsom and who?
Oh, is it the
shallow pool?
That Shapiro, isn't it Shapiro?
Oh yeah, that guy, Josh
Shapiro. Yeah.
I
think he's super popular. Except if the Democrat will let a Jewish person in any sort of power.
Sure.
Yeah, I think they might.
I hope they don't. let
think
them,
it
because
might
he's
be a
actually
Newsom
really
Obama ticket.
Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you think? Oh,
I think
okay.
Obama.
Newsom Obama. There you
I
go.
think so.
Oh, I don't.
I was watching her on this. She was real vocal for someone that doesn't want to be in politics.
Yeah, but it didn't move the needle.
No.
Because she's only so much she can do. She's pushing
Yeah.
her. But I let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think it really depends on economic factors at the end of this 4 years.
Yeah.
Where is the economy sitting?
In 2 years. I think in 2 years. He's got 2 years.
Yeah, you're probably right. Two to three.
2.
Because the last year is campaigning.
Exactly.
I'm gonna prophesy right now. No.
Okay. Third term for Trump.
Third term.
Project 2025.
Maybe Trump changes the policy of term running limits
Aw.
for presidents. Oh, that just fed somebody. Yeah. All right.
I love it.
Bless you
All
guys.
right.
Well, podcast 78. It was great. It was great.